You are tuned into the Green Hornet Case Files, a beacon of truth in a world shrouded in mystery. Unveiling the legacy and cultural significance of one of the greatest crime fighters of all time. Now, let the adventure begin. Here are your hosts, Kory and Greg.
I gotta be honest, man. I was a little concerned at that.
Why is that?
Because it really felt like the antennas were coming off. It was not starting off strong.
People are not understanding what you're talking. I only hit the button like 5 times to make the intro play there, and for some reason, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Hey, welcome to the Green Hornet Case Files. This is Season 2, Episode, can you believe, 17?
Really?
Man.
I felt like we just recorded 12 the other day.
I think we did. We've been trying to put some of these into the can and make it so that, we can have a holiday coming up here real soon and see what happens. We've got a special guest for you. She's sitting in the background. She's giggling.
She's ready to rock. She's ready to go.
I don't quite understand, the whole giggle thing because we haven't seen anything funny yet. But... So I would normally do a lot of news of the week and comments, and I got nothing, man. I got absolutely nothing.
I'm good with just getting to our guest.
I am too. I'm excited about it, ladies and gentlemen. New York Times best-selling author,
Bram Stoker Award winner.
There you go, Nancy Holder. Good morning,
Hello.
Good afternoon, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm great. I'm stressing because I'm on safari and I want to know if that's okay.
Yeah, if you're on
okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Right.
no, yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Seems to be working okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We're utilizing a program, for those of you that don't know. It's called Riverside FM, and it was designed. It's kind of like Zoom, only it's designed for podcasters. And she said she's a Safari girl, which means she's an Apple, and I love her because she's a Macker, and I am too. But you're fine. You're great.
Okay,
you're
cool.
wonderful, and yeah. So we're good. We're good.
All right.
So there's the technical aspect of this show
Okay.
out of the way. I pop open your website, Nancy Holder, and I see Mary Shelley Presents. Why doesn't it say the Green Hornet at the top?
Well, first of all, my website is terribly, terribly out of date, and there's only a sample of what I've written on there. But I'm pretty sure if you go down to a different part of the website, you will find Moonstone, and
Yes,
you'll find find my stories. But I don't know why the Green Hornet's not first. I could ask my webmaster to change it. So
Well, we should. We actually should. I mean,
yes, sir. Sir. I'm on it. I'm on the case.
All right. If we're going to link over to your website, it's got to be let's keep it going here.
It's very Hornet forward.
Yes.
All right. I'll get it.
All right.
No. Yeah.
So if you do click on published work and you scroll down a little ways, you have to scroll past Buffy the Vampire Slayer and
Which
Highlander and
Which rules?
all this other stuff. Crimson Peak, Ghostbusters. I tell you. And finally you get to Green Hornet.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I saved the best for last. That's why.
You did.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And actually, you keep scrolling, you get into a little bit of Domino Lady, and I want to talk about
Yes.
that coming up here in just a little bit, too. And we will touch on Ghostbusters, if that's
Okey-doke.
okay with you.
Of course.
Okay. Talk to me about your writing career. Where did you get your start of writing? Your love
Well,
of...
I will tell you that I got my start writing romance novels. I wrote 2 young adult romance novels, and that was my first entree into the harsh realities of publishing, because my very first novel I titled Love and Honors, and it was written as Wendy Davis. That wasn't my name. And the story was that a young girl, a high school girl, falls in love with a guy who's a jerk, but she's an honor student and he's not. So he cheats off her. But anyway, I tiled it Love and Honors. I was very proud and I was so excited. Here I'd sold a novel and woo on, here we go. And without telling me, my publisher changed the title from Love and Honors to Teach Me to Love.
Oh.
So it was very embarrassing because people would say, "What's the name of your book?" And I go, "Teach Me to Love." And every man or every boy, I was young then, would say, "I already know how to do that." And it was like, they didn't even tell me that they changed the title. So I was really, I mean, I was excited that I had a book out, but I don't know if you ever read Kurt Vonnegut Jr., but he had, interesting, I have to add the junior. Anyway, he had a character named Kilgore Trout, and Kilgore Trout would write these books, and they would come out in porn stores, and they were called things like Mouth Crazy, which wasn't what he wrote at all. It wasn't his intention to write porn or to have it be called Mouth Crazy. So after a while, every time I sent a manuscript into my agent, I would say, "Here's Mouth Crazy." because my first novel was called Teach Me to Love. So I started out writing romances. I wrote a number of them. And then I not trying to brag, but it was easy. And that was the first boom of romance. It was everybody wanted lines of romance writers, and they were doing things like we would have to write under pseudonyms at different publishers, and we couldn't cross over with our own pseudonyms. And so the Romance Writers of America took them to court and won. And so, yay, Romance Writers of America. I will also say that in those days, the Romance Writers of America spent a lot of time and effort teaching writers how to protect their rights, teaching them about royalties in foreign countries and book clubs and special editions. They were amazing. So it was a good start because I learned a lot. The first novel I ever wrote has never seen the light of day, and I actually shredded it. It was what we used to call bodice ripper. It was a sexy historical romance novel, and it was terrible. So after the romance times, I really was a horror fan, and I had a mentor named Charles Grant, and he said, you should go to your closet, your bookcase. My bookcase was in my closet. You should go to your bookcase and look at what you're reading, and that's what you should write. And all of my books at that time had what I used to call black covers. And so I was a horror reader. So I went to my agent like this was a big, huge thing. And I said, I would like to write horror instead of romances. And he said, well, the only thing that's going to happen is that you're going to make less money. I said, okay, that sounds good to me. So I started writing horror, straight horror. And I wrote horror for a long, long time. And so other things happened. I have had a long career, but I'll tell you how I got into writing tie-ins and Buffy and Green Hornet and things like that.
Yeah.
Which was, now I had credentials as a horror writer, and I had credentials as a romance writer. And a friend of mine said, different publishing companies are bidding on a new series that's going to be on TV called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And they asked me if I wanted to try out, but I'm not qualified. It's just not my thing. But you, Nancy, you might want to try out. Would you like to try out? And I said, sure. And so at that point, I had a lot going on. So I asked a co-author if he wanted to participate. His name is Christopher Golden. And Chris and I went straight to the publisher. To the editor, who was an editor who was bidding on the rights. And she said, I'm not getting the rights, but here's the editor who is. And we texted her 13 ideas. She picked one. Our agents got involved, and then we had 3.5 weeks to write it. So they FedExed some scripts to us. The show hadn't come out yet, and so we read the scripts, and we made what we called a Slayer dictionary or a Joss speak or something. It was that weird way that Joss Whedon would write, and we emphasized his scripts. I think we got like 4 or 5 scripts, and we really looked hard at his. So we wrote our novel in 3.5 weeks, and we turned it in, and we found out later that there was a pool at the publishers about whether or not we'd make the deadline. because we had made the deadline, we got another book and another book and another book. And then after a long time, Chris went off to do other things. I kept writing Buffy. I had other co-authors, Jeff Marriott, Mary Elizabeth Hart, and we just did all kinds of things. We did the episode guidebooks. We did, I think Chris and I did a high school yearbook, the Sunnydale High School yearbook. Because we were doing Buffy, then I did Angel. I did Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Wishbone, if you know who Wishbone was, my beloved dog Wishbone.
Wishbone rules.
Just all kinds of things. And the very first tie-in that I got was for Highlander. And I should have backed up. That was the first tie-in. And it was a horrible experience. I can say it now because the person who was sort of my nemesis has passed away. He was the producer. And I had to go to Los Angeles to talk to him. And I said, I protested to my editor. I said, I lived in San Diego at the time. I've never had to go talk to a person about their book in person. Why do I have to drive to Los Angeles? And she said, well, everybody else is doing it. Well, everybody else was doing it because she told everybody else that everybody else was doing it. So I went up there, and the first thing he said after, we were standing around for a long time because it happened to be the day that all the private schools in Los Angeles had graduated and everybody was coming to the restaurant. We were supposed to be in eating and not leaving. So our reservation was messed up. So we stood for a long time while he talked to my liaison. Her name is Gillian Horvath, and talked about their work at Highlander, which, of course, I was all over. I was very excited. And then we sat down, and the first thing he said was, well, I didn't like your idea. I said, well, you approved it, which I didn't realize was the right thing to say. It's exactly like saying my two front wheels were in the intersection when the light turned red. And so Gillian turned to him and said, you did approve it. And so then sort of he couldn't make me change it at that point. But it was a rough experience. And I thought I will never write another tie-in book in my life. But I've written probably, I don't know, even, I know I wrote 48 Buffy and Angel projects. So
never say never, right?
I know. But anyway, so life went on. I wrote lots of Buffy. I wrote lots of tie-ins. Meanwhile, I had my own career of writing horror and young adult horror and dark fantasy. And I had a co-author named Debbie Vigay, and Debbie and I wrote Wicked, not Jeffrey McGuire Wicked, not Ariana Grande Wicked. And it hit the New York Times bestseller list on both sides, which in my world is a big deal. Excuse me. So it was on the individual book side and the series side. So that was a huge, huge coup for us. We went on and we wrote a number of other sort of dark fantasy, dark young adult horror type series, but frankly, nothing hit as big as Wicked. I've written a lot of short stories, horror stories, and science fiction and other genres. And so I just went on and on and on. And that's how I got Ghostbusters, and I novelized the first Wonder Woman movie and things like that. And I novelized Crimson Peak. And I will say that was one of the highlights of my tie-in side. It was doing Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak, yeah.
I got to do a lot of my own thing in it. I gave the house a point of view, if you've seen the movie.
So I was going to say, I've read your novelization of Crimson Peak, and I love that movie, but I love your book more.
Oh, thank you.
It is tremendous. I'm a huge Del Toro fan, and Gothic horror is really a big thing for me. And I just loved the take that the house had a point of view.
Oh, Kory, you're awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There he goes, sucking up again.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
Well, it works.
Well, yeah, it does. Speaking of sucking up.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
King of the segue.
Yeah, the king of the segue. Let me tell you about this one over here. Ghostbusters. There is a local group in our area, and I understand you're like on the other half of the state of where Kory and I are. So
Mm-hmm.
we're all Northwesters here.
Yes, we are.
We have a local group of Ghostbusters that I happen to have a little something to do with putting together. And so when I was doing some research and I saw that you had done the ladies' point of view novelization, that just kind of tickled the socks off me. Now I have to go see if I can find a copy someplace so I can get you to sign it.
Well, thank you. I will tell a story on that. I got the gig, and so I went to the studio. At this point, I am going to the studios to talk to the people. The Ghostbusters cars were parked out front, and on the lot, the building for the Ghostbusters IP, it looks exactly like the firehouse.
Right.
And so, yeah, I went in, I was all excited. But I wasn't allowed to see the movie. It wasn't finished. And so what I did was I sat and looked at any clip I wanted, anything on a laptop with the assistant. And I'd say, okay, when they have the parade, what does that look like? Okay, when this happens, what does that look like? What does that look like? And then they had a screening that I wasn't allowed to go to, and the assistant called and told me the sequence of the scenes. So I never actually saw the movie until after I turned in the book. I don't know if that's a bad thing to tell you, but I'm telling it to you.
Now I'm really intrigued now to read your novelization because I've seen the movie so many times, you know?
Well, I will say in all, pulling it back a little, I saw so many clips and I saw so much and I talked so much to the I'm trying to pull his name in, but I can't remember his name, but he was the assistant to the producer. And I talked so much about it that I felt like at that point I'd seen it. I'd just never seen it put together in the correct sequence,
Sure.
because that's the way you film things anyway. But it was really, really fun. And I did get to add some stuff. And the only thing they changed was I used the word Boston or used the word New Jersey, and they made me change it to the other one, whatever it was. And I think I said something like, it looks like a nice day in Boston because that's where they actually shot it, if I have my story straight. But so it was an in-joke, but they made me take it out. And that was the only thing that had to change, which in my world of writing tie-ins is phenomenal. So it was a really, really fun experience. And I think I saw, let's see, who did I see? It might have been Dan Aykroyd, but it was one of the original Ghostbusters eating lunch in the private dining room where I was eating lunch with my liaison in the common dining room. And I can't remember if it was Dan Aykroyd, but it was one of the original Ghostbusters.
And you didn't get up and go ask to, borrow the salt or something?
But and when you go in, when you went in the office, the building, the production offices, they had just gotten a Ghostbusters Lego kit. Had just been released and somebody had put it together and it was in the lobby, like, ta-da. So it was very heady and very exciting. And I was all over doing it. It was so fun. So.
Well, we may have to change the name of the podcast. Instead of the Green Hornet Case Files, we'll call it the Tie-In Files.
Hey, man, I think we've got a future in this.
Oh, we just might. We just might. So what brought you then to Moonstone and Joe and the whole group of
I love Joe Gentile. I love him. We somehow knew each other. I think he had asked me to write a Sherlock Holmes short story or something. I can't remember. But I started out writing prose for him. And then he said, would you like to break into comic books? Which, of course, I was thrilled. Yes. So he sent me Dennis O'Neill's book. I think it's called The DC Guide to Writing Comics. I can't remember anymore. But he sent me a copy, and I read it. And then I started writing Domino Lady, and I was thrilled. And at the early stages, his sister was my editor. But after a while, she got busy and couldn't edit anymore. But I had a couple misfires, like I had 2 actions in one panel and things like that. But they watched me all through it, and he kept giving me work. And so I wish I could remember why or how I met him in the first place. But can never remember how to say it. It's C2E2 or E2C2 or whatever in Chicago. And we met up, and it was just wonderful. He's a cool dude. And later on, he invited me to Comicopolis, where he lives, and that's got Lockport. And it's a library, puts on this big comic book day. And, he put me up in a nice hotel and took me out to dinner, and I met his wife. And he's a really cool guy. I really like him. So that's how I got to be writing stuff for Joe.
Domino Lady, it intrigues me. And we'll talk about Green Hornet here in just a second. But Domino Lady intrigues me because she, like the Hornet, was originally created and premiered in 1936. She was in May of 36, whereas the Hornet was in January of 1936.
Oh, I did not know that.
So, I mean, we are talking 2 kind of originals. There's not a lot of other characters, big name characters now that exist other than like Lone Ranger and Phantom and, some characters of that nature. But what intrigued you about Domino Lady?
Well, first of all, that he asked me to write it.
Yeah. That's always nice. It's work.
When you write tie-ins, unless you really hate something, you go, yeah, sure. And then find out about it and then just fall in love with it. So it's sort of promiscuous that way. But what I liked about her was she was very, she was brave and courageous and sexy and she was kind of funny. And she was just a superhero back in the 30s we had Wonder Woman at some point, but a friend of mine said, I actually used this dialogue somewhere. I'm leaping through the window, racing away from the bad guys in my kitten heels. It just cracks me up. I mean, she runs around dressed in this slinky dress and her cape and all her knockout powder and stuff. And it's kind of campy, but it's also very cool because she's also taking a bubble bath and stealing jewels and she's just fun. I just think she's awesome. And I love Domino Lady. And again, plugging how nice Joe is. There is a very tall, I'm looking over at mine, it must be at least 2 feet tall, Domino Lady, I guess, collectible. It's of her, and he sent me one as a present once, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman didn't come along until 1942, I believe.
Listen to you. Oh, my gosh.
Well, this is part of what we do here. Yeah. And you did a tie between Domino Lady and Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Which you haven't heard. My wife and I have been talking to Joe. That's how we really got to know Joe. Was we're toying with the idea of maybe doing some audio stuff for that.
Cool.
And one of the pieces that came along that Joe sent me happened to be your Domino Lady and Sherlock Holmes, and we've recorded a short snippet of it, and I haven't shared it with you, and I will share it with you. But
oh, please do.
So that's a little pre-tease to something that may never happen. So,
well, I hope it does. Dang it!
Well, from your mouth, from your lips to Joe's
ears,
Joe's ears. Let's make that happen. All right, our buddy the Hornet.
Yes.
Let's have a conversation about Britt Reed and how you approached writing the 2-3 stories that you've done about the Hornet.
Yeah, first of all, it's so funny because when you said, what are the titles, I thought, I must have 8 or 9 of those, but I have 2. They're 5,000 words long each, so it's almost a novella. But when I look back at how much research I did, I'm like, holy moly, because Joe sent me links to the old TV show, and then I watched the new movie, and I read a ton of Hornet stuff, and so that's pretty typical of the life of a tie-in writer. You do an enormous amount of research, and then maybe it continues and maybe it doesn't. But what amazes me about the Green Hornet is that he decided to be a bad guy, to present himself to the world as like this criminal mastermind, and so he could safely be a good guy, which is so twisty and very cool. And this has really nothing to do with it, but somehow that reminds me of Dexter. It's like he's just really it's so out there that he would, okay, let's see, how will I do this? I know. So that amazed me. And I was rereading my stories before I talked to you today, and I emphasized that violence is kind of a drug for him. He gets kind of high off all these gun battles and everything, and not literally high. The adrenaline is pumping and the action is occurring, and it's cool, it's great. I also felt for him that he's sort of boxed himself in, and he's got Cato and he's got Casey and the DA and all that, but really he's as alone as, say, Batman will be, or Superman, but he's got an extra layer because he comes off as this bad guy and everybody knows his bad guy persona. So it's really interesting how he sort of squeezes out of all these close calls and stuff like that. So it makes him extra interesting.
I love the fact that was originally created to be the vehicle that, you are a good guy and you're actually out to do good. But the way to do that is by being a bad guy. And right. Kory and I have had many conversations, and we've talked to a lot of people about this whole idea. And it as you sort of said, it's kind of twisted in its own way, mm-hmm. but it works. It just works.
It does. It's great. It's really great.
Now, did you do a Kolchak Hornet crossover?
Yes. Actually, the two stories I'm thinking about, both were Kolchak Hornet crossovers. Right. And I will tell you that I found that to be difficult. To me, the Green Hornet is, how do I want to say this? He has science fiction elements, and there was science fiction in the series, but Kolchak is supernatural. And so I actually had a little bit of trouble melding the two together, but I hope I was successful, but I don't know if I was successful. But, I have ghosts and things in it, and the Hornet never sees any of this. And so, of course, as happens with Kolchak, he takes pictures that don't come out. The tape recordings he makes burn in a fire. So there's all this stuff. But in my story, Kolchak figures out who that Brit is, the Hornet. He says he's a cub reporter in that time period. And so he goes to him and says, if I can unmask the Green Hornet, will you give me a job at the Sentinel? And he goes, sure, ha ha. And he does it. And so the so problem good. I had with that was that he upstages the Hornet. So, if you discover the Hornet's identity, you kind of bust him. So I'm trying to remember. There was one story, and I might be getting it mixed up with Domino Lady, but I don't think so. And I think it's when Casey figures out that he's the Hornet because of perfume. There was something to do with perfume. And I thought, what? So I'm sorry I can't bring it in right now, but it did. I on the Kolchak side, I was proud of Kolchak that he figured it out. But on the other hand, in my mind, unmasking the Hornet is kind of like kryptonite. you exposed him to kryptonite. So in the two stories that they're connected, so there's like a first part one and a part two. In the first one, Kolchak and he decides to team up with Kolchak, and in the second one, they go on another adventure together with Kato, of course, and so then they're more of a team. But Kolchak is definitely very differential and very much aware that he's the smaller player in the duo. They're not really a duo. He's really with his boss. And so I wanted the Hornet to be the lead, the alpha guy. And Kolchak is definitely the beta, but Kolchak's the beta a lot. And there are points in both stories where the Hornet is impressed with him and approves of what he's done and says this kid's going places, because, as I said, it's when Kolchak is very young. So, yeah. And then I could riff off some of the funny stuff about Kato and the Hornet from Kolchak's point of view.
Sure.
He talks about how Kato hardly ever talks. And at some point, Kato says something like, "Let's go." And he goes, and Kolchak, in Kolchak's perspective, he goes, which is a lot for Kato to say. and
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And he called him like scary ninja man and stuff like that. So, and then he appreciated that Kato always wore black because, of course, he always wears the same outfit. And so he thought that consistency was a good thing. So stuff like that.
That's fun.
It was fun.
You brought up a kind of an interesting tie, and I'm going to let kind of Kory run with this one, because we've discussed many, many times what we'd like to maybe see as far as transitioning with the Green Hornet from the 1930s and the newspaper business and the crime syndicates and so forth on through the 60s when things started changing. And one of the things that, Kory, you mentioned...
I've always said I thought it would be a cool thing to have him reach into, to have some supernatural stories that happen.
Wow.
And so that's phenomenal, because that's really something that... what made you decide to go that direction?
Well, it was Joe who said you want to do Kolchak Green Hornet crossover. And so then I thought, well, Kolchak is supernatural, and the Hornet, he has his stuff, and it's kind of endearing now because he had obviously a drone. That's what we would call it. Not endearing, but impressive for the time. So yeah, it's very supernatural. Only it's usually supernatural on Kolchak's side, and as often happens to Kolchak, the other guy does not believe it. And
that's such a fun way to take it.
It's an amazing thing, but I don't have the video, or I don't have the, the pictures were burned up or something, and the Hornet would go, So, but it's just that trope. Poor old Kolchak never believes him. So, but yeah, and I think that's a good plan to keep him fresh and going, would be to give him more supernatural stories. That would be cool. I didn't know if I could cross that line, so I just kept him more in the action and Kolchak in the weirdness. And they often were in the same situation, only seeing it differently. Like in one of the stories, there's some ghost pirates, and they're very much like Javier Bardem in Pirates
of the Caribbean.
Yeah. And so he's dealing with this pirate ship, but there's fog everywhere, and the Hornet is dealing with some drug dealers, and the pirate ship has been summoned from beyond because the bad guys have hidden their drugs in the same cave where his treasure is. And so his spirit, or his ghost ship, has been summoned because somebody's messing with his treasure. And so he's coming after the bad guys and the good guys because he thinks they're stealing his treasure. And Kolchak is trying to explain, no, we're trying to keep these guys from selling drugs. And they're going, you will be our new cabin boy. And yeah. So in that way, the whole time, the Hornet is battling the bad guys like with, weapons, and Kolchak is trying to talk his way off a ghost pirate ship. So
fun.
Yeah.
I happened to see at, I don't know if it was the Rose City Comic Con. It was one of the cons I was at within the last year and a half, doing my Green Hornet as I do. But somebody was cosplaying as Kolchak, and and they nailed it. Because they'd found the little tiny camera that he used. It was just absolutely perfect. And had I known about this at the time, and I didn't, I'd have teamed up with him in a heartbeat.
That is cool.
That would have been so much fun.
That is very cool.
I will tease you with the idea, and I will call Joe and say, you need to get with Nancy, and we need to take the Domino lady and put her with the Green Hornet. That
would be cool.
That would be
very cool.
1936. Then you'd have to do research with the old radio show, and we'll keep it going.
Oh, what a bummer! I used to tell people, "I'm sorry, I have to go home and watch television. It's my job." I'm like, "Yes, I'm sorry, I have to go now. my show is on. I have to go." So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, back in the day when Buffy was on the air, I had to watch it. The production company actually charged the publisher $25 for every videotape that we requested. So we were all taping it and keeping track of all the episodes, and people were actually transcribing the scripts online, and I would get the shooting script, but the broadcast would be slightly different. So I would have to edit it to make sure it was accurate. And a lot of that was just this sort of ad hoc fan help weird situation where you had to go, I'm sorry, I have to go watch Buffy, and they're like, wait a minute, really? Yes, really, I really do. So
it's my job.
It was horrible. Although I will say I did not watch the last episode. I was too sad to watch it when it came on, and I watched it later. So
well, I'll let you. The little spoiler is the butler did it. Okay.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah. I knew it. Sorry, I just had to.
So Nancy, one of the things that we run into, we talk to a lot of people, a lot of comic writers, authors, and one of the things, especially people who write characters that have been created by other people, is you get a sense of ownership of that character. Did you find that to be true? And if so, what's the one you feel like the most protective of? Like, that's mine.
It's interesting that you say that, because I know for Joe, I'm pretty sure the Green Hornet is one of his closest friends. I mean, he's just very protective of the Green Hornet. So that's interesting. For me, back in the day, I will say the apron strings have loosened over the years, but probably Buffy. I studied Buffy so much, and I wrote so much about her and for her, that I think it would have been Buffy. But now I will be honest, time has marched on, and when they talk about rebooting and all of that, that'd be fine. That's interesting. They'll probably honestly pick a new set of writers, novelizers, and people like that for the new show. I would not expect to be contacted at this point. But another show another character I felt quite close to was Scott in Teen Wolf. And I did tons and tons and tons of research, watched all the episodes multiple times, and then only wrote one novel for Teen Wolf. But I really enjoyed the show, and I thought it was a good show. And I met the showrunner, the creator of it, and one of his directors or producers, Russell Mulcahy, had been on Highlander. So it was really funny to find out that he was connected, and that was not the guy I had the trouble with. The guy I had the trouble with has passed away, and Russell Mulcahy is with us. So it was just really cool. And it turned out that the guy who did Teen Wolf was a huge Buffy fan. So it all came around in a
Oh,
big.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What comes around goes around, and that's always that's how we stay in business too.
Yeah. I also do really love Kolchak, and I liked the Green Hornet, but I didn't feel like I had enough time before the projects were over to be like buds forever. But I admired him because he was just this, what a strange choice, but what a cool choice, you know. So I wanted to know more about him. So I'm glad I ran into you guys.
Well, we're happy to have you as one of our guests on the Green Hornet Case Files. Nancy Holder, and I tell you what, it blew me away. I was aware of you because of Joe's and my conversations in regards to Domino Lady and starting in through that. And I popped open, again, we talked about your website at the very beginning. I'm reading down through some of this stuff, and I'm going, holy crap. Oh, holy crap. Oh, look, holy crap.
Yeah.
Nancy Holder, overachiever.
Yeah, there you go. And, and she started young. So for those of you, young writers out there, I'm still trying to be a writer, and I ain't young anymore. But for those of you that are young writers, write.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. Yes, I actually taught in an MFA program for 13 years, Stone Coast. It was an MFA in creative writing. And the most important piece of advice I have is to finish everything you finish stuff, not everything, but finish what you start. Because I had students, when I first started out, they'd say, this isn't working, can I do something else? And I would let them do something else. Well, they were really good at maybe 3 chapters or, a couple pages, but then they couldn't finish. And so they would have all these pieces of things, but they never had any stuff. And so that's my big suggestion is be sure to at least finish some of it. Because if you keep starting over and over and over, A, it's probably because you're scared. And B, it's because you haven't figured out how to flesh out your idea. And that is one of the most, I don't want to say touchy, that's not tricky parts of all of these kinds of mythos and other worlds and stories is sometimes you can see somebody had a really cool idea, but they didn't know how to keep it going. And like, I have to say Westworld was one of those for me. They started out so strong and then everybody went, what? And the Green Hornet is a strong character that could, as you say, Kory, could have stories about the supernatural or other stories. And that was the thing I liked about Buffy, is you could have a sad Buffy story or a mystery, or you could, have a very supernatural, or you could have a family drama Buffy, and you could still do it. And the Green Hornet is the same way, where he's a full character, and so he can carry all kinds of different adventures and different flavors and different genres, because he is so well, I don't want to say constructed, but that's true. He's well constructed. The person who created him really did a good, solid job. He's like a fully fleshed character. So that's my thing about writing and being, having written a lot, is you have to have some kind of facility as a tie-in writer to think of these as real people for the time that you're with them. And so you honor them and you try to be as much like them as you can. And you have to check your ego at the door. It's not about you. It's about whoever you're writing about. And, I had crazy notes about Buffy, and like, Buffy wouldn't say that. Buffy wouldn't do that. I'm like, okay, what would she say? Well, you're the writer. Go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. What would she say? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, for people who are starting out, I know right now with, AI and all the crazy things that are going on, it might seem like a thankless task, but people like me are waiting to see what you got going. I have a student just sent me her book, another student just got a whole big award, and she's on the bestseller list, and that just is exciting to me as if it had happened to me.
So much fun. So much
Yeah.
fun to see people succeed. And
Absolutely.
if you had a part in it, that's awesome. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah. If you'd like to check out some of Nancy's work, obviously go to nancyholder.com, or you can go check out Joe's Moonstone. We've talked about Joe's Moonstone a lot, moonstonebooks.com, and look for the Green Hornet Kolchak tie-in books. And, you know, I don't know that we're done with this conversation at this point, Nancy. There's a lot more to talk about here, and I'm just excited to have you. And when we talked to Patricia, you know, last time around, who has contributed a lot, and it's nice to have, and I don't want this to sound weird, but it's nice to have a female perspective on a superhero, you know, that kind of a character. Yeah.
100% agree. It's really, you get it going the other direction all the time. It's nice to see it go the other way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely is. Real quick, before we let you go, do you have something brand new that's either just published or is about to be?
I'm so boring right now. No, I do have one thing that I will talk about. It's because it's just weird to me. It's weird that I ended up here. No, actually, it's not weird. But I'm laughing because my first thing for Joe was probably a Sherlock Holmes story, a Domino Lady prose story with Sherlock Holmes in it. And now I am a very invested Sherlockian. I'm actually a Baker Street irregular, which is in the Illuminati of Sherlock Holmes. That's a big coup. So I'm a Baker Street irregular, and another Sherlock Holmes fan and I edit a project called the Blue John Gap Project for the Arthur Conan Doyle Society, and we edit a web page and our parts of our things come out in a hard copy newsletter 3 times a year. And we are talking about a short story Arthur Conan Doyle wrote called The Terror of Blue John The Terror of Blue John Gap. Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a ton of scary supernatural stories.
Yes.
Yeah, who knew? And this is one of them. And Dartmouth College has the original manuscript that he wrote on, they used to handwrite them. And they have the manuscript. And we've been, the Arthur Conan Doyle Society has been allowed to print each page, digitize it, and put it up on the website. And each issue of the newsletter and of our website, we invite Sherlock Holmes people or popular culture people or academics to comment on something in that specific page. So we've been doing this for almost 4 years now, and it's a project of the heart. Margie Deck is the other person. She's a prolific writer of Arthur Conan Doyle-like stories, Gothic stories. She's excellent. She's one of my best friends. She lives in Tacoma, and so that's kind of taking up my time right now because we're on schedule, on deadline to get that in. So that's my big thing.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
What's the website?
It's called the Arthur Conan Doyle Society, ACD Society. And when you go, you'll see places to click, and we are the Terror of Blue John Gap.
Can't wait. I'm a big Sherlockian myself. So
well,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
In fact, as you're talking here, and I'm digging through photos because there's something I'll share offline with you when we get done here. But
cool.
This is so much fun to talk.
Thank you.
About all these wonderful characters that we know and love, and obviously our boy, Britt Reed and Green Hornet and Cato, and to have somebody that has contributed to the mythos. That wonderful universe. We appreciate that so very much.
I love him. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Nancy Holder, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Kory, my friend, it is probably about that time.
We are right up against it, my friend.
Yeah, actually, if you have any comments and questions, obviously, as always, podcast at greenhornet66.com. And are you going to do the other
Coffee. Ko-Fi. / Green Hornet Case Files.
That's right. If you like what we're doing and you want to help support, we'd love to have you to pop over there and put a few coins in the jar. That would be wonderful.
And hit podcast at greenhornet66.com and tell me whether you think it's coffee or Ko-Fi. I would appreciate that. I want to know what other people think.
All right. All right. We're going to keep this thing going, aren't we?
I'm never letting it go, dude. You're stuck with it.
All right. All right. And with that, what do we say?
Let's roll.
As the night envelops the city once more, our journey through the hidden alleys of history and valor comes to a close. You've been riding shotgun with the Green Hornet Case Files, where the echoes of the past meet the voices of the present. Tune in again for the next thrilling adventure, where shadows speak, secrets unfold, and the legacy of the Green Hornet continues to inspire. The Green Hornet Case Files is a Grail Productions podcast. The Green Hornet is owned exclusively by Green Hornet, Inc. Until next time, vigilant listeners, keep your wits sharp and your spirit unbreakable.